Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we'll chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verses 11 to 20.
अवजानन्ति मां मूढाः मानुषीं तनुमाश्रितम् परं भावमजानन्तः मम भूतमहेश्वरम् मोघाशामोघकर्माणः मोघज्ञानाविचेतसः राक्षसीमासुरीं चैव प्रकृतिं मोहिनीं श्रिताः महात्मानस्तु मां पार्थ दैवीं प्रकृतिमाश्रिताः भजन्त्यनन्यमनसः ज्ञात्वा भूतादिमव्ययम् सततं कीर्तयन्तो मां यतन्तश्च दृढव्रताः नमस्यन्तश्च मां भक्त्या नित्ययुक्ता उपासते ज्ञानयज्ञेन चाप्यन्ये यजन्तो मामुपासते एकत्वेन पृथक्त्वेन बहुधा विश्वतो मुखम् अहं क्रतुरहं यज्ञः स्वधाहमहमौषधम् मन्त्रोऽहमहमेवाज्यम् अहमग्निरहं हुतम् पिताहमस्य जगतः माता धाता पितामहः वेद्यं पवित्रमोङ्कारः ऋक्सामयजुरेव च गतिर्भर्ता प्रभुः साक्षी निवासः शरणं सुहृत् प्रभवः प्रलयस्थानम् निधानं बीजमव्ययम् तपाम्यहमहं वर्षम् निगृह्णाम्युत्सृजामि च अमृतं चैव मृत्युश्च सदसच्चाहमर्जुन त्रैविद्या मां सोमपाः पूतपापाः यज्ञैरिष्ट्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्यमासाद्य सुरेन्द्रलोकम् अश्नन्ति दिव्यान् दिवि देव भोगान्
In the 13th verse, we studied about meditation, keeping a single pointed focus on the self. Now, as you know, in the Bhagavad Gita, never does he talk about this concept without talking about the premeditative practices. Never does it happen, either in the Bhagavad Gita or any other prescribed text. Always they talk about the premeditative practices. So, verse 13 told us about the single pointedness. Verse 14 told us about karma and bhakti. Always doing the actions and the emotions for the sake of the self. And now, verse 15th, which we are going to start now, talks about the Jnana Marga, something of interest to us because this is predominantly our marg. So, here we're now going to study about Jnana Marg. What is Jnana Yajna? ज्ञानयज्ञेन चाप्यन्ये यजन्तो मामुपासते एकत्वेन पृथक्त्वेन बहुधा विश्वतो मुखम् ज्ञानयज्ञेन चाप्यन्ये यजन्तो मामुपासते एकत्वेन पृथक्त्वेन बहुधा विश्वतो मुखम्. Often he has told us throughout the text what exactly is knowledge. So he's now telling us again and again and again he will tell us, and he tells us again and again because
he doesn't want us to be misunderstood.
Okay.
Drive home the point again, its importance.
And also
Okay.
because I think that no matter how many times we hear, we don't really get it or act upon it. It's not imbibed in us, or it's not a part of us. Maybe it's
Right.
just a text.
So he tells us again and again because we didn't get it the first time.
Yeah.
Why would we want to repeat himself? As if he has no calm danda but to repeat himself. We don't get it. So he keeps trying different ways, different methods, different ways of explaining the same basic idea. So, Jnana Yagnena, as you can see, Tritiya Vibhakti, by Jnana Yagna, Anye, Cha, Anye, and others. Others because Cha means and Anye, others. So, why Anye? Why others?
Sharing of knowledge.
And others by Jnana Yajna. That's what he said. So why is he saying by others?
Without that, Jnana Yajna is not complete. Cannot be completed. Without Jnana, that Jnana Yajna cannot be independent of itself.
Okay. Because he already told us karma and bhakti, right? He said some people are doing that and now others are doing this. So some people are involved in karma, some people are involved in bhakti. I mean predominantly, of course. And others by Jnana Yajna. They yajante mam upasate. Some by Jnana Yajna sacrifice and worship me. Mam upasate. Upasate means they worship me. Mam is me. So they worship me. By what? Yajantaha. They sacrifice. They're sacrificing with Jnana Yajna. So what is the concept of sacrificing with Jnana Yajna? You all remember, I'm sure. But just for the sake of, if anyone has not yet heard it, a yajna is a ritual, sometimes called havan, where all the people get together and offer oblations into the sacred fire. There is a kund, a sort of brick, make a little, how to translate kund into English? A little sort of container in which you can put the wood. What?
A pot.
Trough. Okay, trough, probably. Better. So make a little thing. Now they use this metallic thing also, But in earlier times with bricks or with stone, or something like that, they make a little trough kind of thing. And then the sacred fire would be lit in it along with the chanting of the Vedic hymns. Yagna is a Vedic, it's part of the Vedic culture. You probably know that Indian culture can broadly be divided into the Vedic culture and the Puranic culture. The Vedic culture means that portion of our culture which has to do with the Vedas themselves, the four Vedas. So what do the Vedas talk about? They talk about the yagnas, the yagas, the kratu. All these are various kind of rituals prescribed in the yagna, in the Vedas. So yagna, that's why we always say, now we're going to have Gita yagna. So why do we say yagna? Because it is something where we all get together and do it. Because what happens in the yagna? All the participants get together and offer oblations into the fire. And that is representative of cooperative endeavor, of us all working together. So when you get together and we put everything, we put what we have, right? Some people would get grains and some people would get something, whatever from their house, and offer it into the yagna, into the yagna kund. And then the fire would rise, and the rising of the fire was considered to be the blessing of the fire god. And then the fire would consume all the grains. The people would take the vibhuti, apply it on their forehead, and go to the nearby temple or create a yagna purusha, whatever. Different yagnas done it in different way, but basically take darshan of the Lord. So what does it show? That yagna kund represents a field of activity, any field of activity. And that we all put our grains into it shows that we put something, all of us put something into it. And if we all work like that together in a spirit of cooperative endeavor, we collaborate, we do things together, then that field grows and progresses. And that's considered the blessings of the fire god. Fire represents ideal, so it's the blessing of the fire god. Your ideal will bless you. It will give you prosperity. It will give you peace. And not only that, that's why, prasad, the word prasad, you're supposed to get prasad after it. The word prasad means peace. And then you're supposed to transcend the three gunas. They're burnt, as it were. You burnt your individuality, and thereby you gain darshan of the Lord. So it is a representative of our spiritual path. Now, yagna refers to this kind of cooperative endeavor, doing it all together. Yagnas are massive things, they're not small things. They're like all of us getting together, whole village getting together and doing something. They were done by the very rich people, like the kings and the princes and the extremely rich merchants, because it involved a major thing. And what it signifies is that all of us are going to go there and put our whatever, chimnitsa ghas, you can say, our little bit, whatever it is, into the yajna kund, and then everybody benefits from that. This is the opposite of working with a spirit of competition or working with a spirit of me above you. It's just the opposite of that. No, as I sit here today and we're having this class, it's very sad and unfortunate, but there is a building opposite here. They have a fairly large plot of land. There are like 4 or 5 buildings there. And this building, which I can see, is falling apart. It's crumbling. The other day, huge chunks of concrete fell. That whole lift, what is that room on top above the lift? That whole thing collapsed. And now they are knocking all the concrete off. It's like falling apart. Even the staff who come here say, my God, aren't those people frightened of living in that building? It's just falling, it's crumbling, it's literally crumbling. Every time it rains a little, parts of that building fall off. Can you imagine living like that? Don't they get frightened? They're living in there, it's like a what? 7-story building? You're frightened of that? And they're living there like that. And you know why they're living there like that? Because they can't get together and decide about that reconstruction which they should be doing. They're fighting over it. I will get little more, you will get little more, and all this. Can you believe that? And their lives are at risk. Their lives are at risk, and God knows who else's life is at risk because this thing crumbles. I mean, the cars parked outside this compound, the cars outside the compound. This is the absence of yagna. Nobody is willing to say, okay, I sacrifice my bit. And that's what is shown so beautifully in Laodomia. It says, a generous cause a victim did demand, and I leapt forsook upon that sandy plain. For all those who attended the fantastic poem Laodomia, remember? A generous cause a victim did demand. A cause that demands a victim. Sometimes you have to sacrifice. We have to give up our interest. Because that's how it all works, right? Because like this, nobody gives up their interest, and now this building may fall anytime. Somebody has to give up. Somebody has to say, okay, fine, I give up. And do it. And now they, their families, any ordinary passerby, everybody's at risk. The beauty of life is when we can function together. The beauty of life is when we can do things together. All of nature is like that. Our bodies are like that. Suppose one of our leg is injured. The entire weight of the body the other leg will bear. If something happens to our eyes, they're challenged in some way. Our hearing goes sharper. We compensate. The body compensates for its parts. The hand doesn't say, I will not feed the mouth. How can you function like that? So this ability in us to work together towards something greater, nobler, bigger than ourselves is what is the whole concept of yajna. And that's what has to be done together. All of us have to do it. Not like, oh, let that person do it and let that person do it and dekhte kaun aur karta hai. No, I will be first out there to do these things. That's the spirit of cooperative endeavor. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this for everybody. Well, that's the spirit that Vedanta hopes to inculcate in us, because that is the purification of the human being. So, Jnana Yajna. Jnana Yajna is that Yajna which is of knowledge. That cooperation which is of knowledge. Now, what cooperation can you do in knowledge? Knowledge, so you have to get yourself. No, how can anybody cooperate with you in knowledge? You should have actually said Jnana Yaga. You didn't. Oh, you know what a yaga is. Yaga is different from a yajna insofar as an individual can do a yaga. Yajna has to be with the group. But a yaga can be done by anybody. It's like your prayer. You can go and pray in the temple, right? You don't have to involve anybody else. So yaga can be done individually, but yajnas means we do it together. Now, when we are setting up this new course, I hope you're all excited about setting up the new course, the new residential course. We all have to get together and do it, or it won't be done. It's that simple. But if you think it's something worth working for, then work. Do it. Take up something and do it. So whenever we are able to work together, we're able to do things together, we'll be amazing. That is the story of India. Amazing that we had such a culture. So Jnana Yajna means, Yajna refers to cooperation, and Jnana means knowledge. So what is knowledge and cooperation? Doesn't even make sense. Knowledge is always alone. You can't go hand in hand with with your partner towards realization, right? Or towards studies. Even if you're doing a BA, you won't go hand in hand. You have to do your own studies. What does it mean? It means various things because every of these words we can take it in various ways. So Jnana Yagna, it is cooperation and knowledge also. It's not just cooperation in terms of work, but in terms of exchange of information, of backing each other up for knowledge. So, so now y'all are getting together, I understand, and having a group to help each other study in the morning. Your morning studies by yourself. Now, I hope you don't start group study in the morning. Your morning studies by yourself, but you're giving each other a backup. Okay, we're together. We're doing this together. So you're using the peer pressure of the mind a little bit to get yourself to study. And this is called cooperation in knowledge. Even the massive like corporations, Pepsi Cola or whatever, GE or whatever massive corporations there are in this world, how do they work? They're able to combine the knowledge. The finance guy doesn't understand what the IT guy does. The IT guy doesn't understand what the marketing guy does. The marketing guy doesn't understand what the production guy does. But they're able to pool in all their knowledge together and thus have these major corporations happening. That's how a country runs, right? Everything. The more we can pool it together, the bigger it goes. So one way of seeing Jnana Yoga is Jnana Yagna is this cooperation of knowledge. To study also, to give each other the information that we all need, to be able to get all of us to study together, all of this stuff. It also means one more thing. Because if you remember, in the yagna, what is the act going on? You go and put your whatever samagri into the fire, whatever offering you have, and then the fire rises and blesses you. So another way of looking at Jnana Yagna is you offer your ignorance into the fire of knowledge, and then the fire of knowledge burns it. It becomes vibhuti. That burnt ignorance is your glory. That's your glory. That's why you put it on your forehead. My glory is that I burnt this ignorance. It's a very interesting usage because you're actually putting ash on your forehead. So it makes no sense really, right? Even Shiva, you see, is covered with ashes. Why is he covered with ashes? He'd be covered with jewelry. Why are you covering him with ashes? Your great God covered with ashes is covered with ashes to symbolize that he has burnt all the ignorance. He's burnt all the desires. Those grains have been burnt. Grains are things which, when you add water, they will sprout. When you put them in the Yagneshala, they're burnt. They can never sprout again. When the desires have been burnt by the fire of knowledge, they can never sprout again. Once you have learned to be unselfish, you can never go back to selfish. This is not possible. Just as once you have learned what it means to fall in love and get married and all that, can you go back to Barbie dolls? Even if your wife is ugly, you cannot go and get a Barbie doll, can you? Have to have a wife only. You cannot have any doll and toy or anything. You can't do any of that stuff. So, Rajneesh, how to increase selflessness in oneself? Rajneesh, how to increase selflessness? How to increase selflessness? I mean, that's the whole spiritual path. What is spiritual path? It is increasing it is removing the selfishness. So from selfish you become unselfish. From unselfish you move to selflessness. Cannot go directly to selflessness. Become unselfish. Work with people. Do things together. And at the end of the day, there's only one way to purify ourselves, and that is called knowledge. There's no other way to do this, unfortunately. When we know the higher, the lower will follow. This is the only way this will happen. Everything else is only practice, is only action. And Shankaracharya says, you cannot remove ignorance with action. Knowledge is the direct way of removing ignorance, just as fire is the only way to cook your food. If you want to cook your food, fire is the only way. Now, what happened about cleaning the vegetables, cutting them, blah, blah, so many things you have to do before you put it on the fire. Before you put it on the fire, you have to do all those things. But the only way to cook is to put it on the fire. No other way to do it. How to increase selflessness? By first making ourselves unselfish, and then from there moving on to selflessness through the process of knowledge. Knowledge by itself is difficult to gain. Therefore, difficult to gain means our mind is not prepared for the knowledge. Therefore, you undertake
Action.
Karma.
karma. Very good. Therefore, you undertake karma. Now, fortunately for all of us, we have a major karma yoga in front of us. So be prepared. There's lots of opportunities for karma coming up.
Hari Om Janki ji.
Yeah, Ganesh.
Ma'am, do we do karma and jnana in equal proportion? Because somewhere I feel that karma action really helps us grow. I'm really confused with.
Karma will help you grow only if it is backed by knowledge. So you cannot do karma and action in the same proportion. You will do them in your proportion. If you're more active, then you will do more action. So 9 out of 10 people will be more active, so more karma.
Okay.
But the karma alone will not do anything. The whole world is working, right? In fact, Ganesh, you were also working. You worked at your job, and then you took on this major activity of doing that oxygen thing. Why do you feel you grew more out of 1 month of doing the oxygen thing than you grew out of doing your own work? Because this is backed by knowledge. Oh my God, I really learned a lot. Everybody at the end of it is saying one thing, my God, I really learned a lot.
True.
It is true. Because it's backed by knowledge. You know, when we do our karma, we bring to it a sacredness that we have to slowly learn to bring towards every aspect of our life. We don't have any other aspect. We have only sacredness. We have only divinity. And this should percolate every aspect. But how do you make it percolate every aspect? How at all times are you always concerned with the other person rather than with yourself? How do you achieve this? You start somewhere. You start somewhere where you can do it. If you do what you can do, then slowly you will be doing more than you thought possible, and eventually you will be doing what everybody else thinks is impossible. Like now, if we take this thing up, imagine we want to purchase this land, 10 acres of land. Okay? How much money do we have? Anybody knows how much money we have?
No.
I'll tell you, 0. We want 10 acres of land. We have 0 money. Not only we have 0 money, we don't even have a bank account. Okay, so we are in a pretty bad state. In this bad state, we say, let's start a residential course on Vedanta. This will be very useful to all our children. It'll be something that they will make a difference to their whole life for those who study this. Okay, this is a crazy dream. It's totally out of control. But we now decided, okay, let's try. So we'll try. We'll see what happens. Let's see if we can achieve this. One thing we know for sure, we can achieve it if
we work together.
We all work together.
See, everybody knows this. If we are all in it together, we'll do it. There'll be something worth doing, there'll be something worth spending our time on. So then you have a crazy dream and you work as much as you can, and that's it. Then either it works or it doesn't. But so far we have found that all our crazy dreams have come out true. If you do something together, it usually works. Very rarely does it not work. We took our country back from the British, didn't we? We did all sorts of things. Imagine at that time, did you even think, those people said, what nonsense independence, we'll never get independence. Think of the might of the British Empire and think of us. You always start like that. But if we get together, we can do amazing things. That's the significance, you know. Rama crossed the bridge and crossed the ocean into Lanka, not with the help of the Ayodhya army, the powerful army. He didn't get the help of the powerful army. He got the help of the monkeys and the squirrels. Just to say that there is nothing like people getting together. Nothing like that. No power like that. So it's got huge power. How do you become unselfish? You have to be motivated by an idea. You have to know that this is something worth doing, and I'm willing to sacrifice for that thing, whatever that thing is, with knowledge. So, Ganesh, you have to study and do karma together. Then it works.
Understood.
If it's only one, it won't. Now, how much karma, how much study, that depends on the individual.
Individual. Got it.
Okay, so jnana yagnena cha anye yajantah mam upasate. The others worship me by sacrificing, by jnana yagna, by the process of knowledge. Now, what is this process of knowledge? Here's where the difficulty starts. Ekatvena, ekatvena, ekabhava, the feeling of oneness, the knowing of oneness, to understand that you and I and all of us are eka, are one. We are the same eternal self. There is no difference. It's not like you have one self and I have another self. No, it is the same one self pulsating through each one of us, whether human or animal or plant, any kind of creature, the one self pulsating in and through each one of us. Just as there's only one electricity in all the gadgets. Gadget won't move unless the electricity is there. Similarly, no living being can make any movement except by my power, except by the power of the self. There's no other way to do this. Ekatven, to understand how we are one. You may say, how I can't see any oneness between that person and me. And that is the process of knowledge, to see the oneness. No, I can't do it. I can't see any oneness. Everybody will do, but I can't see any oneness with my mother-in-law. If you think like that, then throw your mind back to a beautiful example in our scriptures. The example of Arjuna and Karna. Karna hated the Pandavas, and more specifically Arjuna. Arjuna hated the Kauravas, and specifically Karna. Right? They hated each other. All they wanted to do was knock each other down in battle. That's all they wanted. And poor Karna, he never won against Arjuna. In all the battles they had, always Arjuna was winning. He set them all, there was a Chitra, Chitragatha, what is his name? Whatever. Incident in the forest, or it was in the when they were disguised with Virata. Every time Arjuna won it. So Karna was longing to defeat him. And Arjuna had never won enough to get the kingdom back. So he had to fight to get the kingdom back. What's the use of winning the small skirmishes? Both hated each other. And then suddenly they loved each other dearly. What happened? When did they suddenly start loving each other so much? What happened? When they found out they were brothers. And Arjuna found out that Karna was the first Pandava. When Karna found out that he was the eldest brother, he loved the Pandavas. He loved Arjuna. The moment you see that oneness, how can you not feel the love? That is why they say Jnana and Bhakti take you to the same point. If you can see the oneness, you have to feel the love. How can it be possible? Ekatvena. See the one self in everything, in everybody. There is no difference between us. The body, mind, and intellect are different. But the body, mind, intellect is what? It's nothing. And yet we can see nothing beyond it. Can you imagine the grandeur, the glory of the self and the body, mind, intellect? Koi comparison in here. But we will see the body, mind, intellect and miss the self. It's like you see the fish in the ocean, but you don't know about the ocean. What is the size of that silly tiny fish and what is the size of the ocean? How can you see a fish and not see the ocean? Even the biggest fish, you see a whale. What is the comparison between the blue whale, the largest creature, and the ocean? Is there any comparison? And yet we see the fish, we miss the ocean. Just don't know. How can you miss the ocean? The ocean is where you are. The fish may or may not be there at any given point, but the ocean always is. But all our attention is on the body, mind, intellect. None on the self. It's an incredible thing. It's like when we put our little finger on our eye, okay? And this little finger blocks out our vision. And we say, look how powerful my finger is. It can cloud the whole world. Isn't it silly? What is that finger and what is the world? So when you see beyond that finger, when you see beyond the fish, when you see beyond this petty body, mind, intellect, ekatvena, the eka bhava comes about. You see, there is only one thing. That power that makes that tree grow, is it not the same power that makes these eyes see? What different power is there? The same power. Ekatvena. Pruthakvena. It's a beautiful usage, and it's so confusing. Ekatva. First he says one. Then he says pruthak. Different. What does different mean? Different means the ocean is different from the fish. The self is a different thing from the body, mind, intellect. Different not in the sense that it's not, body, mind, intellect is not made of the self, but it's different. What you are perceiving is very different from what the reality is. It's different from this. It's completely different. Electricity is different from the cooling of the AC. Electricity is different from the cleaned clothes. Electricity is different from the chutney that was ground in the mixer. It's different. It is one and it is different. What is it different from? It's different from the manifestations. Bahuda. What is Bahuda? It is the manifestation as well. I don't know if you heard that lovely bhajan, Ek Tu Rama, Anek Tu Rama. Where is our bhajan singer? Aditi. You heard Ek Tu Rama, Anek Tu Rama. Very famous bhajan. You know how to sing it, Aditi? Okay, sing us the chorus.
Yes.
But you're muted, Aditi, still.
Shankiti, I haven't learned that bhajan.
Oh, haven't? We don't have any other singers in our class. I could have sung it, but you all will all switch the volume off. So
Please
Is it Govinda Rama?
sing it.
Is the one that starts with Govinda Rama?
oh, yeah, I think so.
Rama, Jai Jai Gopala Rama.
Ek tu Rama. Yes, that's right. Do you know it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Govinda Rama, Jai Jai Gopala Rama. Govinda Rama, Jai Jai Gopala Rama. Madhava Rama, Jai Jai Keshava Rama. Govinda Rama, Jai Jai Gopala Rama. Ek tu Rama, Jai Jai Anek tu Rama. Ek tu Rama, Jai Jai Anek tu Rama. Govinda Rama, Jai Jai Gopala Rama. I think I missed a line in the middle.
Oh, that's okay. All we wanted is that one line. Ek tu Rama, Jai Jai, Anek tu Rama. Oh Rama, you are one. There's only one Rama here. But you are Anek. All the manifold expressions are all you. There's only one cotton in the garments. The garments are all different, but the garments are still cotton. You are one, you are the many, and you are different. All three fit in. Beautiful thing. There's only one gold in the ornaments. That one gold is one. It is different in different ornaments, and it is the same one gold. It is different from the ornaments. It is different ornaments, and it is one gold. Amazing, right? Ekatvena, pruthakvena, bahuda. It is one, it is distinct, and it is many. Thank you, Jyoti. We should all learn this song. We don't, where is it? It's not there in our bhajans. How come? This was an academy bhajan. We don't hear it, no? Govinda Rama, Jai Jai Gopala Rama. Govinda is Rama, Gopala is Rama. Everything is Rama. So the bhakta can only see his Ishta Devata. If you tell him Shiva, he will hear Rama. If you say Krishna, he will hear Rama. If you say Christ also, he'll hear Rama only. Because you can see only one. The one Rama, the different Rama, and the many Rama. If you understand all three, you understood what they're talking about. And as long as you can see that, you're doing Dhyana Yoga. You're living that, not just when verse 15 is on, we see it. No, that is your experience of life. That is called Jnana Yoga. Facing all directions. Vishwato Mukham. Vishwato Mukham. Very common usage of the scriptures. Vishwato Mukham. Facing all directions. That means you can look up and you can look here and you can look there and you can look down and look there diagonally and this way and that way and all that. You can look everywhere. What does it mean, Vishwato Mukham? His face faces every direction. It only means it is all-pervading. That's all it means, all-pervading. Otherwise, you make a mockery of it. How do you mean it looks in every direction? You have to look inside also, no? If you're looking in every direction. What does it mean? It means all pervading. So you see that one all pervading self as different from your experience and also the experience. That is why the Lord is considered to be immanent and transcendental. Transcendental means he is beyond. Immanent means he is everywhere here. So he is everywhere here and he is beyond. There's a common explanation of God, right? He's immanent and transcendental. So exactly what he's saying here. Well, it sounds contradictory. He's one, he's distinct, he's many, and he's facing all directions. So if you read it without explanation, you will say, "Ye to pagali ho gaya. How can this be so?" But when you understand it, imagine, take the example of cotton. Cotton is one. It is distinct from the garment, right? It's also manifold garments. That is also true. All the various garments are cotton only. And yet the cotton is different from that garment. In other words, the shirt is not cotton. The pant is not cotton. So it's different from the garment, and yet it is the garment. It is Vishwato Mukham. It is facing all directions. Means it's all pervading in all these various garments. Clear? Everybody's clear with verse 15? Your capacity to peg onto that thing is Jnana Yoga. And if you understand that, then you will understand Shankara's definition. Remember, Shankara gave us a definition of Jnana Yoga. Superb definition he gave us of Jnana Yoga. Remember, anyone remembers it?
Nitya Viveka Vichara.
Very good. Nitya, Anitya, Viveka, Vichara. What is Jnana Yoga? It is the capacity to discriminate between the Nitya Vastu and the Anitya Vastu, the permanent thing and the non-permanent. So think about it. If you can see that one distinct, manifold, all-pervading cotton in cotton clothes, and therefore ignore the Nama Rupa, means what is the various Nama Rupa of that particular form, that's Jnana Yoga. So it's all saying the same thing, really.
Sankiti, can you say it again?
Okay,
Yeah,
if
can
you
you
can see the one gold in the different ornaments as being the ornament, as well as being distinct from the ornament, as the gold being all pervading in the ornament, and thereby give the gold more importance than the ornament, this is Jnana Yoga. That's what a jeweler will do, right? You can take him your Mangal Sutra. Will he pay you more because it's a Mangal Sutra? You take him your wedding ring. Will he pay you more because it's a wedding ring? No. All he's concerned with is how much gold. You may say, "Oh, it's my Mangal Sutra. It's the last piece of jewelry I have, in the Hindi movie. Go and give my Mangal Sutra." The gold jeweler is not concerned. Only concerned with how much gold is there in this. A sadhak is only concerned with the self, not concerned with anything else. That doesn't mean that when you say this, it means you are concerned with how you can use this experience to reach the self. That's what it means. It doesn't mean, "Oh, I'm thinking of self, I'm self, and then everything around me has fallen apart." Not that. What it means is, I'm only concerned with one thing. How can I use this experience to take me to my goal? That's the only thing I'm concerned with. I'm not concerned with anything else. And when you live life like that, that's the classical way. It's the way which gives the highest productivity and the highest peace. If you shift your attention from that and all hell breaks loose. Literally, all hell breaks loose. That's why, if you remember, in some class we had spoken about how all the virtues you see in the great people are actually the virtues of
Ideal self.
the ideal. Yes, 9.
Yeah.
Correct. You have that ideal, all those virtues are yours. You don't have the ideal, all those virtues are gone. That means you and I, we all have those virtues whenever we have the ideal in mind. And we will all lose those virtues when the ideal goes from our mind. That's a fact, isn't it? Whenever we have worked for something higher, something better, something nobler, we were those people. And when we forgot about that, we were no longer those people. Okay, so that's verse 50. Now let's do, anybody has a question with reference to verse 50?
Yes, Janki ji.
Yeah, brother.
Is there a way of recognizing oneness, keeping in mind the body, mind, intellect, minus the self, maybe?
Yes, of course. Now, when you, Bharat, are working for the welfare of this class, okay, you have to answer questions all the time. Everybody, 500 people send you 500 different inquiries. It must be irritating at some time. Arey, let me eat my food, let me sleep. All time I have to answer you people and your questions. But you don't say that it's irritating. Why don't you say it? Because there's a certain amount of oneness that makes you think, okay, if I can help everybody study better, let me do it. Right? You know, what are you to get out of it? Somebody studies or doesn't study is his problem, right? But you don't look at it like that. So that is called oneness. That you're seeing it as it's important what's happening to you as well. It's not just important what's happening to me. It is that attitude in us. That is the oneness. No point saying, I see the self, I see the self. And the first person who comes next to you start growling. What is the point of that? But that thing which makes us stretch ourselves out when there's no axe to grind, I get nothing out of it. And yet I do it. That's oneness. So yeah, you don't have to reach the self for oneness. Oneness grows on us. In fact, oneness is a test of development. The more oneness you see, the more developed you are. The more you strive for it, the more of a sadhak you are.
Ji, thank you.
Anyone else? Only on verse 15, okay? Because opening out for question is always a bit of a risky thing. Anything on verse 15? Okay, so then let's go. Nobody's saying anything, right? Okay, so then let's go to 60. Aham kraturaham yajnah swadhaham aushadam mantrohamahame vajam aham agniraham hutam aham kraturaham yajnah swadhaham aushadam mantrohamahame vajam aham agniraham hutam. Aham kratu. Aham yajna. Aham kratuhu. Aham yajna. Swadha. Swadha is an offering that you make to the Pitrus. So I'm kratu. Kratu is a Vedic ritual. Yajna is another Vedic ritual. So I am the rituals of the Vedas. I'm Swadha. Swadha is what you give to the ancestors. In every yajna, I don't know if you all have ever done these things. There is an offering made to the Pitrus. There's an offering to the Devas. There's an offering to the Pitrus. An offering to Ganesha. There's all sorts of things that happen. So the offering to the Pitrus means the offering to the ancestors. The offering to the ancestors is supposed to be one of the Pancha Mahayagna. There are Pancha Mahayagnas. Am I giving you way too much detail? There are Pancha Mahayagnas. Anyone knows them? The concept of the Vedas is that we as human beings are born with debts. We're born with a debt. And the removal of these 5 debts are the Pancha Mahayagna. Do you know which are the Pancha Mahayagna? Anyone knows?
Matrurun, Pitrurun, Manusharun, Dhrutarun, and Rishirun.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Now, if our class was like that, then we can go swiftly through everything. First run you have is Matru run, which means to your parents. Okay, not mother alone, but to your parents. Because when you were born, you were such a complete idiot that you could not even feed yourself. In fact, you couldn't even breathe on your own. You couldn't do anything. You were an absolute idiot. Somebody kept you alive. So you have a huge, huge debt to your parents. First. Second debt, you have a debt to the Pitrus. Pitrus is not your father, Pitrus is your ancestors. Your ancestors, because you're living whatever life you're currently living because of the effect of the past. You speak a certain language. Why? Your ancestors spoke that language. Your father, your grandfather is you're educated. Why? Because your father thought education was important. Your grandfather thought education was important. So whatever, you eat a certain kind of food, it's all come to you from your past, right? From the family it's come to you. So there's a debt you have to the family, not just to your own parents, but to the ancestors, to the wider family, because of which you have a certain economic status, a certain education status, a certain respect in society, your social standing, and all those things, right? So all of it has come because of something that happened before you were born. You have a debt for that. You have a bhutarana. Bhuta refers to the elements. Okay? What today we probably call ecological. Yes, we don't remember our bhutarana. We don't have a run to the to nature at all. And that's the chaos we have all created here. Forgot? And then you have Acharya Run, I mean Rishi Run. Rishi Run is for all the education that we have received from the Rishis. That's what you have Guru Purnima for, because it's one big namaskar for all the gurus, your guru in specific and all the other gurus. Because if there was no Rishi Rin, Rishi Rin is the rin on our head, which says, just as I got this education in Vedanta, I have to help other people get it. That is my Rishi Rin. It is a debt we owe to the rishis, that they kept this knowledge for us and we have to keep it for the future. Your Manusharun, which is Atithi Deva Bhava, that comes from your Manusharun. Atithi means Atithi, jiski tithi nahi. That means any human being can land up at your door anytime. You have to take care of that person. Atithi. Guest is God. So from the concept of Run, debt, comes the concept of the yajna. So that's why we're going to do yajna, because we have the run. In our mind, it converts as we do a yajna to get something. But actually it is, we do a yajna because we have already got, not because we have to still get. We already got. So why were we talking about these runes? It's from the word swatha. Swatha. This is part of your run to the Pitrus. It is an ancestral offering, like Shraddha, which you do in the death of a person. It is your offering to the Pitrus. What it means is that let us remember the Pitrus so that we remember their contribution and the values for which they stood. by us doing something, they are not going to reach heaven. Please, this is not possible. I will give Pitru Run and then they reach heaven. They are not going to get heaven or hell based on what I do. They will never agree to such a proposition. These mad people will do something and I will reach heaven or hell. They will reach according to their karmas. We will reach according to our karmas. So we have to work with a sense of gratitude. That's all it means basically at the end of the day. Okay, so Bharat has announcements. Okay, go ahead, Bharat.
Okay. Hari Om, everyone. So just as we do with the Saturday class, we plan to come together as a group to form a group summary of the portion we covered in this class. We'll be, for those who don't know, we'll be dividing the groups into 4 to 5 people. And this group will meet once a week or once in 2 weeks to come together on Zoom and discuss the summary of the portion covered in class. So for those who don't have the book as yet, the link to buy the book is shared in the chat. Swamiji has really made it easier for us to follow the line of thought by dividing the topics in detail as you see on the screen. So please get the book. It's important we all have the same book to avoid confusion. And for those who would like to be part of this summary, please contact me, WhatsApp me, and we'll go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, and you have to make the summary not verse wise but topic wise. Okay, be careful. So when you're doing your summary for the first one, it is for topic 1, which is self-pervades world, which means verses 1 to 10 have to be summarized. So you have to have like couple of paragraphs maybe on all 10 verses. Okay, so be careful. Huh?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does the entire topic and then shares it with each other, or
Yeah.
people are doing different verses and then make the.
No, everybody does everything.
So the whole
basically you have to just say like self pervades world. So how many points are there according to you? Okay, so very briefly, let us say you have 5 points in that topic. So each one must come up with the same 5 points, no? You all will write it in different words, of course, but you should reach the same 5 points. I'm just saying 5 arbitrarily, okay? Maybe 10 points, but whatever, you all have got 10 points. And then if anyone has a different point, then you please see why somebody got a different point. It should be the same point all of you all have come up with.
So we each
don't write an essay on it. Just write the point.
So each one of us does verses 1 to 10 together and then we share it.
Do it individually and then discuss it.
Then share, yes. Okay.
Everybody does the points and then comes together and then you'll compare points, remove whatever y'all think is unnecessary or too much or whatever, and then distill it down to the main ideas.
Got it. Thank you, Janki ji.
Hari Om, Janki ji.
Hari Om.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janki ji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Janki ji.
Hari Om.
Thank you.
Hari Om,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.